Hello, my name is Kevin Smith, and I wanted to talk today about that which keeps everybody stuck in creation, as we have all been in the psych realms and going through our reincarnational cycles for the longest time, eons and millions of years. And every time we return to another unconscious lifetime, having been regurgitated back into creation, we find that it is an unconscious lifetime, and we have no recollection of the lives that we had prior to this. So, what keeps us remaining in creation and prevents us from extricating ourselves from it? There are two things predominantly, that of emotional attachments and that of agreement. Everything in creation is based on ideas that at some stage somebody decided to create. And if enough people agree to whatever this idea may be, regardless of the nature of the idea, be it good or bad, if it is an idea that stems from creation only, then by agreeing to it, you become tap-lined by it, and this causes a restriction, and results in you remaining in creation, based on the cause and effect principle, where for everything you set in motion as a cause, you have to experience the effect of. And so, with agreement to ideas, regardless of the nature of them, we then set causes in motion, we are then tap-lined by them, and we will find ourselves in future lifetimes until we stop agreeing to all the ideas that keep us restricted. It's also worth bearing in mind the intent of the individual. The vast majority of people will simply be creating ideas that do not reference the real universes and the is beyond creation. And so, if we agree to these ideas, which are solely the domain of creation, then creation is as far as we will go, as we are restricted by creation that these ideas stemmed from. And also, the intent of the individual may be just that, to keep us in creation, as everything on this planet is based on control. Those which control the human species want to maintain their grasp on their slave species and ensure the human race never wakes up. For should the human race begin to wake up, to become firstly aware of their oppression, and then to seek answers and reach for that which is beyond creation and beyond the control and grasp of the dark forces, then the dark forces will lose their slave species and effectively have to toil their own soils. The problem with this situation is that if awareness is not allowed to expand as it naturally does, then it is restricted and suppressed, and because everything in creation is a reflection of the state of awareness or lack of it. This is why the creational psych realms are in demise. And this also is why the skies are becoming increasingly black. For once upon a time, the skies were far brighter and littered with stars, whereas now an engulfing blackness sweeps across creation, as all those within it are suppressed in regards to their awareness, and the black holes also are manifesting at an alarming rate, and should they continue to do so, they will effectively engulf whole swathes of the universe, and planets and star systems swallowed up within them, and ultimately we will find ourselves in a universe of perpetual darkness. It is quite a bleak and dismal future as a result, and it is all based upon cause and effect. If the vast majority of the individuals are agreeing with ideas that are of an awareness restricting nature, then the result will be awareness is not able to expand, and so the effects will be the demise of creation as it plunges into this darkness that we see, and the black holes that are manifesting. And on top of this, the ideas of the controllers are currently along the lines of destruction. They wish to destroy the planet, to destroy the all-natural environment which supports all of us, and everything currently in creation serves this end, and all the political systems, the religious systems, the spiritual systems, and any other system currently in operation is infected and contaminated, and agreement with any of these systems is contributing towards the demise of the planet, and is effectively then an agreement to the idea which is along the lines of the destruction of the planet. And because people are agreeing with it, they become the effect of it also. They will return into future lifetimes in far more distorted bodies, in far more dystopian worlds. The only way that an idea is not of a destructive nature is if it references and is backed by the ears, the real universal guides, and actually is of a beneficial nature. At this time on the planet, very little is of a beneficial nature and is referencing the ears. In fact, the only thing that is referencing the ears and backed by it is the new presentation. That is managed by Dwayne Hepner, Dwayne the great writer, who is the new man, and he has been selected as the individual to present the references of the ears and provide the opportunity to become more aware and recognize this true reality and become one with it. He was chosen for this position because he had the awareness, the courage, and the willingness to do so. At the time there were other candidates, but they were more reluctant to assume this position, and so Dwayne became the new man. And so, when it comes to the creation of ideas, in order to determine if an individual is backed by the is indeed referencing the real universes of the true reality, and is not representing therefore a control mechanism, the best way to ascertain this is to go to the real side, as this will reveal an individual's true intent. Everybody has a real intent, whether they realise it or not, and this intent is to become more aware and get through creation and oneself, and become with the is, to stand real in the new nowness of the isness. Of course, everybody also has a personal self, and this will have all its little personal intents as well. It will have agendas and things that it seeks to satiate its wants and desires. But these are obscuring, created little intents by a self-convinced and created personal self. That must be seen through to recognize the real intent. And so, individuals can be determined as to their intent by investigating them on the real side. But it's safe to assume that unless an individual is making mention of the real guides, and the opportunity to become more aware, the chances are that whatever they are proposing and promoting is of a controlling, taplining, and therefore a guarantee to have future lifetimes idea. And along with the ideas we agree with that we can become taplined by are emotional attachments. Everybody again will have emotional attachments, and these emotional attachments can be with anything. They can be with the food that we indulge ourselves with, or celebrities that we are emotionally attached with, or individuals, our family and loved ones. All emotion stems from the astral vehicle. This is the seat of the emotions. But everything in creation, our vehicles, and all the attributes associated with them are creations too, and therefore simulated, including emotion. So we can see that emotion here in creation isn't even real. Only real love can be experienced in the real universes of the all is. Everything else is simply a faint echo of this true reality. And with emotional attachments, with any emotional outpourings, or any thought processes, the constant churning out of ideas, we are then creating more cause and effect. We are no longer in or standing with the is, and so we are in creation, and as a result we are then subject to the cause and effect principle. And so all these thoughts and emotions will result in us creating experiences that we must go through, as is the nature of cause and effect. If we stand in the new nowness, if we stand now with the is, which is simply a choice to do so, we are no longer the unconscious effects of all this of creation. And so we are removed from creation, and all karma is therefore erased and eradicated, but we must make the choice to do so. And any ideas that we attach to or are in agreement with, and any emotions that we are constantly churning out, and any emotional attachments we have with people will act as drag anchors, and they will keep us restricted and contained within creation. As we continue with our process of becoming more aware, if we choose to do this, if we want to see and be more, to take the risk to be more than we have ever before, the part of the process also involves singing the new you song, and this is the sound that connects us to the true reality of the All Is. The Is has decided that this is the song that makes the connection with it. In the past there have been many words and songs and sounds, but unless these are backed by the Is, then they will not work. And many sounds, such as Om, Amen, and things of this nature, including the Hu, at one time did work, but now they are infected and taken over by the reptilians, who have dragged them into the astral and physical level only. Therefore, by attaching to these emotionally, by agreeing with these sounds, then you will find yourself equally as trapped and constricted to creation. The new sound is the new you song, and this is the only sound currently in creation that connects you to the real universes beyond it. And so, with emotional attachments, these can be forged throughout our many lives, across millions of years and dimensions, many of which are forgotten in the distant past. They are accessible through our causal body, which is the seat of all, and is a compilation and is a storehouse of all the past lives we have lived. But unless we have the awareness to access this life level, and this vehicle therefore, and this information, we will not be privy to it. And therefore these emotional attachments, unless released, will continue to affect us to this day, including all ideas we are still in agreement with. And some of these ideas we agreed to millennia ago, potentially, particularly ideas of a religious nature. Religion has been prevalent throughout the history of mankind. All religion stems from the original reptilians, and these reptilians created the human race and created the religions as a control mechanism. And even if you are not religious today, the chances are you were at some point in one of your lives, if not many. And so the idea is still there, the agreement still in place, and subconsciously then affecting you to this day, including any emotional attachments to people, individuals, or anything throughout all your many lives. And so the way to remove and dissolve these attachments and agreement to ideas is by singing the New You song. This will serve as a means to dissolve and remove all these attachments and agreements, and the universal guides, such as Reba's Artars, will be able to come in and assist in the removal of these tap lines which stem from these agreements and emotional attachments. The real universal guides cannot violate free will. Therefore, they can only remove these tap lines if you have the want and make the request that it is so. By singing the New You song, you are making a declaration of your intent to become more aware and recognize this true reality and effectively have these tap lines removed, and the guides will assist you in doing so. However, some attachments and agreements are far harder to remove than others, particularly if we cling to them. Some we will release very readily, others from our long forgotten past lifetimes will dissolve equally as fast. But some are more trickier to release than others. Some we will cling to till the bitter end, and the guides cannot then remove them if we seek to cling onto these. And even if they did, if they removed a tap line that we weren't ready to have released, we will simply have it reinserted. By clinging onto the emotional tap line and reactivating it. You can see these tap lines on the real side. They would be invisible on the physical level with your physical senses, but on the real side, with the greater perception that your awareness will allow, you can see them. The tap lines are predominantly in the form of that which will snare you. When it comes to dreams, the literal side of you, your personal self, will take things at face value. Everything to the literal personal self is black and white. If you see, for example, a tree, then it simply is that. But what is behind the literal interpretation and demonstrations in the dreams will be something completely different. The dreams are always demonstrating far more than what they literally appear to be, and it is through awareness that we can understand exactly what each dream is demonstrating, and not therefore take them so literally, as we lean more so into our real awareness, that we can glean far greater insights from these experiences. As I was saying, tap lines on the real side will take the form of anything that can snare you, so creepy vines, cobwebs, or anything of a tentacle type restricting or binding nature. Naturally, the literal side will simply regard them as they are, but the real you will determine them to be what they actually are, which are tap lines. For me, I tend to see tap lines in the form of cobwebs, but on occasion I will see them as tendrils. On one occasion, when I was in between my sleep and waking state, I saw slithering tap lines burst forth from my wardrobe and assail me. I fought them off, and the wardrobe snapped shut, and a padlock manifested on it. Evidently it didn't literally manifest on it, but I was seeing with my real awareness. And besides, it is the physical level that is in fact the passing dream, and everything we see here is simply an illusion overlapping the real worlds that lie beyond it and lie beneath. And so everything you see in your waking reality is not as it actually is. It is all superficial, an illusion, a front, that your literal senses will not allow you to see beyond, for the literal senses are designed just for the physical level, and we must lean therefore more so into our real awareness to see what is beyond the wizard's curtain, what is beyond the illusionary veil of the physical level. As in this case, I would not have seen these tap lines were I in my full waking reality, and depending solely on my literal senses, and so it's very possible that whatever caused these tap lines to manifest may have latched on to me. But with my real awareness, and being able to perceive with sight beyond my limited physical senses, I was able to recognize these tap lines and prevent them attaching. It's also quite interesting how dream demonstrations display the removal of tap lines and agreements on the real side. This will be different from one person to another. For me, I tend to see the removal of old agreements or emotional attachments demonstrated as buildings being destroyed. As an example, I had a dream where I was in a car park, and suddenly a loud rumbling sound issued forth. Rather startled, I fled from the building as it was collapsing around me. I had the impression, as much of what we see beyond the physical is based on impressions, and we should become aware that it is through impressions, insights, that we glean a lot of our information. We must learn not to rely on the physical senses. Things are all by impressions, intuition, and ultimately through real awareness. As I was saying, the impression I had was that an agreement had been severed, an emotional attachment dissolved, demonstrated by this destroyed building. On waking, however, I wished to have more information. I was curious as to the specifics, and I went back to sleep. The dream replayed, and this time I saw Rebazar Tars with a detonator, and he in fact levelled the building. It was rather amusing, because as the building collapsed he remained within it, and was buried in the building feet up. All you could see were his sandalled feet emerging from the rubble. Naturally, you cannot kill a guide. This is in fact impossible, and he was only doing that to add a little light amusement to the demonstration, which I certainly appreciated. And anyway, he was basically assisting me in the removing of an agreement. It seems that if a guide comes in to do this, it is evident then that we are incapable or lack the awareness to do this for ourselves. And so, with the New You song and our connection to the real universes, and if we are willing, the guides will quite readily come and assist us in the removal of the restricting agreements and emotional attachments that keep us anchored in creation, and this was demonstrated here by detonating and destroying the building. The building, very large and rigid, so was certainly suggesting the agreement was very large and had great effect on me, and was of such a magnitude that evidently I had trouble removing it myself, and so Rebazartars assisted me in this endeavour, and the agreement was removed. I have had other dreams of a similar type. At one point, I was on an island. At the beginning of the dream, I had to make my way through a collection of very aggressive, faceless animals. To me, this demonstrated a lack of awareness, for to not have a face suggests they couldn't see. Yet they were rather adept at attacking me regardless of their lack of senses. This did suggest, however, the dream was along the lines of awareness, and as I reached further into the island, I sailed down to a lower portion of it by a parachute made from a giant leaf. When I landed, there were a selection of buildings. As I watched, I saw an individual running in and out of them. As he emerged, the building would collapse, and then he would dash into the next one, and the same thing occurred. I took this as a cue that this is what I should be doing. The individual was probably a universal guide, demonstrating to me the means by which the buildings are destroyed and what the destruction of them signifies: the removal of agreements or emotional attachments. And so I gave it my best shot. I ran into a building and effectively destroyed it the same way. I then repeated this. Unfortunately, I came to building number 3 or 4 and was unable to level it. In fact, I got caught in the rubble, and then, just before I awoke, I saw a flash of what seemed to be a scorecard before my eyes, and it was grading me on my effectiveness. And yes, I could extrapolate from the information that I had done rather well. I had removed a number of attachments and agreements, but had failed beyond a certain point. But over time, as I continue to become more aware, and assuming I am willing to do so, then I will be able to bring down the buildings I was unable to in this dream, and therefore sever the attachments and dissolve the agreements. And so you can see that a lot of the agreements and attachments will be severed and removed over time as we continue with our process of becoming more aware. The new UU song, certainly effective in this regard, and the real universal guides are on hand to help with this endeavour. But again, we must remember that they can only remove our tap lines and our agreements and attachments that form these tap lines if we are ready to release them. And so I will leave it there for today, and will speak with you all soon. Before I go, I will sing the New You song. New You, you.